So I'm here with Heidi Priebe, and I'm actually really excited right now because Heidi and I actually used to do videos together a lot. If y'all don't remember, we were on SPA Sigma Personality Quotient on Facebook, and we also did a YouTube video back in 2017 when I actually met Heidi in New York at McDonald's. Writer of INFP Survival Guide, ENFP Survival Guide. Heidi is an ENFP herself, and she also has an ENFP and INFP Soul Boot Camp that she is running that we're going to be talking about in this video, as well as some ENFP misconceptions.
You have to accept the type that you are in order to get anything done. And that sounds so simple, but it's like we just see it play out over and over and over again, because the more we put these people in a room, like a Zoom room, I guess, and get them talking to each other and sharing their life experiences. And like we would run activities around like vulnerability and just sharing more of yourself, because FI really struggles with that. And you just see that the more people stop fighting who they are, which I think is something that a lot of NFPs have been doing their whole lives. Like I know I definitely have, because the world isn't necessarily super set up for NFPs. The more brilliance emerges. Like, NFPs don't trust in themselves enough. So we wear ourselves out, like trying to work steadily and consistently towards things, when what we should be doing is giving ourselves time and space to really, really understand what we're trying to convey, and then take off running and let ourselves work for a week straight and see what comes out. And a lot of the time we can get further than other people if we do that. But because we don't trust that process, we never get there, and we don't engage with it in the first place because it feels kind of scary and unknown. Part of the process we don't usually trust is the times when we need to like park the car and sit in a parking lot for a while because we are out of gas.
Wow.
Because I think that feeling of being lost, of not knowing where we're going, is so core to the NFP experience. Like a lot of us have hit points in our lives where we're like, wow, I'm just kind of driving aimlessly, and there's all these places people are telling me I should go, but I don't really feel called. And you said, like, you know, when the passion is there, the car can just go, right? But sometimes the passion isn't there. And that's also a part of the process, is learning to like slow down and be like, okay, I have to wait maybe a couple months, maybe a couple years until that feeling really comes back for me. And it's okay in the meantime to take a break.
What type of misconceptions would you say that we really need to address?
Oh man, there's so many. But I think one that's been bothering me lately that I've seen a lot online is this idea that NE is just very kind of like random and kooky and funny and all over the place. And I think that there's a very, very deep intellect that gets missed with NE. I tweeted something like a week ago or so that was like, oh, NE always has a 5-hour explanation for whatever they're thinking. If you think it's random, it's just because you didn't ask how they got there. I guess because FE processes verbally all the thoughts that we have in our minds and all the emotions that we have, they're saying out loud. We're only saying like the end result of this kind of perfectly polished emotion that we've arrived at, where we understand it clearly and it's not offensive to everyone. But FE has to say everything along the way to get there. And then we took a moment and we were like, oh, what if we said everything we felt out loud? And we were both like horrified. Like we were like, oh my God, I would trust nobody. You would have to be so careful about who you were talking to. And I think it's kind of like, it's similar when you look at NE versus NI, because NI can be like, oh, your brains are moving so fast, like you're throwing out all these points so quickly. But it's like, no, your brain is moving just as quickly as an NI user. You're just not saying it all. So we're saying our entire process the way that you're sitting back thinking about it, and then coming out with your kind of polished jewel, which is often why NI is so eloquent and well-spoken, because they've really thought through what they're going to say. But NE is just all the processing you do internally, we do externally.
A big thing like they're seen as is like being flighty, you know, and just like, oh, I'll be your best friend, like, you know, like one moment, and then all of a sudden, like, I bounce.
That is a stereotype. To an extent, there's some truth behind it. Like I can definitely think of times in my life where I've been very flighty, where I have formed a really deep relationship really quickly of whatever nature and then just bailed. And I think that this is a learning process, not only for ENFPs, but for the people who know them as well. There's this mold of like what a stereotypical either life or relationship or friendship looks like. And it's very linear and long-term. NFPs just can't do that. We can, but we'll burn out and hate it. So it's like we need a lot of exposure to a lot of different experiences, a lot of different people. And it's of our nature to kind of get really obsessed with things really quickly and then get really obsessed with something else, kind of like move on from the last thing. And to the people that we were maybe really involved with for a while, that can feel horrible. Like I could imagine how bad that would feel. If I can have a relationship with you without you being present, which is not real, but it's like, oh, they might feel like they saw you yesterday because in their head, they had a 2-hour conversation with you yesterday. You just weren't there for it, the person.
That explains a lot. It's almost like I'm paying more attention to not just you as an individual, but like how are we interacting? So if so if we like created this metaphorical child and we called the child relationship, then it's like, well, you have not been here feeding this child. And you can't just say like, oh, I can feed it in my head. Like you just like ghosted somewhere. And it's like, okay, but let's have an agreement that, okay, I'm going to be taking care of the child. And
Denzel wants alimony on his friendships that have gone wrong.
We have to set some type of like expectation so I can be like, okay, this is how it is. You're going to go see mommy twice a year. And we have, and it's not because she hates you, but it's because she has so many other children that she has to take care of.